I call to order the meeting of the Board of Education for Community Unit School District 201, today, Tuesday, December 18th, 2012. Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Ms. Caparelli?
Here.
Mr. Charleston?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here. I'm going to ask that everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will have a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I'd like to take a minute to read a statement on behalf of the Board of Education, mostly from the memo that Superintendent Carey sent out to our families on Friday. At this point, we are all deeply aware of the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. Our deepest thoughts and prayers go out to the victims, their families, the schools, and the entire Newtown, Connecticut community. The events of last week underscore the importance of maintaining school safety. Please know that this board, this administration, and our entire staff keep safety at the forefront at all times. Community Unit School District 201 works closely with the Westmont Police Department to assist us in ensuring the safety of our schools. CUSD 201 practices our safety and emergency drills on a regular basis. This is to ensure that our students and staff know how to respond in an emergency. Please know that we run regularly scheduled safety drills to train, prepare, and remind students and staff of how to conduct themselves should we ever have a need to secure our buildings. Also know that we are all working together to protect our students and keep our schools a safe place for all of our children. Children will be looking to the adults in their lives to feel safe and secure. By maintaining normal routines at school and home, we help young people feel safe and secure. Please encourage your children to communicate to an adult if they are ever aware of someone who may be considering harming themselves or others. It is only by everyone working together that we can maintain safe school environments. In the event of an emergency, parents will be immediately contacted through our website, email, and phone. Please make sure your contact information is accurate. And if you are not sure, please contact your child's school. And finally, as a mark of respect and at the request of the President of the United States, our flags have been lowered to half-staff. Thank you. First on the agenda, and we'll get to you in a minute, Chief, the public hearing. The public hearing on the tentative tax levy. Did you want to do something first? Or should I? Oh, I guess I have.
Get your stuff.
I guess, hold on.
Sure.
The Chair of the Board of Education now calls the public hearing to order regarding the proposed 2012 tax levy. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes. The tax levy is as it was presented at the preliminary meeting in November, and the publication was in the Liberty Suburban newspaper on December 5th, and we are levying $17,657,594 in the educational fund, $2,292,981 for the operations and maintenance fund, $956,044 for the transportation fund, $375,000 for the municipal retirement fund, $375,000 for the Social Security fund, $101,328 for the tort immunity fund, and $211,755 for the special education fund. And does anyone have any questions?
Okay, so board members, there's no questions from the board members. Are there any public comments concerning the proposed 2012 tax levy? Okay, then the chair will declare the public hearing on the proposed 2012 tax levy is closed. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Okay, approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 27th, 2012 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the November 27th, 2012 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 29th, 2012 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, public comment. First, we'd like to have Chief Mulhern, and we'll have the WTA.
Thank you, President Charlton. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to come tonight to reassure the board, your students, their parents, and the residents of Westmont. To echo your comments you said previously, we work very, very closely with our schools, the school staff, and our staff together. In light of the horrific tragedy that occurred in Newtown, Connecticut, all our officers are renewing their rapid deployment plans, as well as school personnel as well. One comment I guess I thought was very interesting this morning as I was getting ready, had the news on, and they had a security expert talking about school security, and they talked about cameras, and they talked about background checks for visitors, and I'm sitting there going, you know, a lot of the stuff that, you know, really sounds good but isn't really practical. And the expert said, he goes, in his opinion, the best security thing you can have in any local school is a person called a school resource officer, and we have that. We have a good working relationship with Detective Mike Weibler, who is our school resource officer. He's in the junior high, he's in the high school. He works closely with the staff, and we are committed to that. I just wanted to reassure, yesterday we had squad cars at all the schools located in Westmont, and our officers have been instructed to keep up the extra watches at schools. They may not be in the school. They do what's called school patrols, and this has been in place for years, depending on their work call or their call load. But the officers will be keeping an extra watch around the schools, and you know, may not be there every morning or every afternoon, but we try to be there and have done so over the years. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we remain committed to the security of our students so that they can have a safe and comfortable place within which to learn. And just wanted to reassure the board of that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I, Chief, I'm going to, because it feels like the time to ask the question, because it is heart-wrenching. And there are a lot of hard decisions to think about and look at. A dear friend of mine pointed out that the airlines have a program called the Air Marshals. And he wondered aloud why schools don't use a similar program. Because part of the school issue is that it's what's referred to as a soft target. As you guys work together on that, I am curious if you think there's value in something akin to that. Clearly, Illinois has a legislative issue with respect to CCWs. That's supposed to be resolved sometime in the next 6 months. But you know, the TSA and the airline industry do the air marshals for a reason, and you know, I certainly don't want to put you on the spot to say
No.
It's a great idea, not a great idea, terrible idea. I wanted to throw it out and wondered if you guys had even thought about those kinds of things.
We haven't, but I would say that the air marshal is your school resource officer.
Yeah.
He does carry his weapon, his firearm with him at all times. Sometimes you'll have a suit coat on, sometimes the weapon is visible, a lot of times it's not. That is akin to the air marshal. Air marshals are random, they aren't on every flight. They're, on high priority flights. I can say that when I was a school resource officer many years ago, and we created the plans and everything, we worked closely, and we have continued that program. Having the officer there, Detective Weibler, constantly come back and say, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. We're a step ahead, and it's nothing new. School resource officers, and I would say, well, hopefully we want to say it's almost in every school in the country. Maybe not so much in grade schools, but I do know that Mike stops at the grade schools. He's in contact with the grade school principals. If they felt the need and they would say, hey, we'd like to have him in the schools for a couple hours, we would work out something like that. This morning in the same news program, they were talking about some schools somewhere on the East Coast. I wasn't in Connecticut, but they're hiring school guards, armed school guards to patrol the schools. I would defer to our school resource officer program in place of that. If the need comes that you need to have more officers, if we have to put uniforms in the schools, for a rapid response, we will. To have them patrol the schools, I would defer to Mike and the detective division for something like that. I agree. Having them there is not only a deterrent, but it's also, if something were to happen, you have a first line of defense, and Mike is that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then next, celebrate success from the WTA, please.
Good evening.
Evening.
The Westmont Teachers Association is here tonight to celebrate success. So I would like to introduce Miss Lisa Hoopman, who currently teaches biology, English, and advanced biology at Westmont High School. Lisa received an associate's degree from Harper College in Palatine, then earned a bachelor's degree from Eastern Illinois, where she majored in English and minored in biology. She then went on to earn her master's degree from Eastern in biological science, environmental science, physical science, and zoology. Lisa has sponsored the Environmental Club at the high school since 2008, where students work on recycling at the high school and have taken trips to Waterfall Glen, the Morton Arboretum, and the zoo. Since 2006, she's been the senior class sponsor and coordinated senior graduation and festivities. Lisa and her husband Rick love to hike and travel together all over the U.S. They really enjoy sports, gardening, and the outdoors. At her home, they have converted their double lot into planting beds. This outdoor fun keeps them fit and out of trouble. Lisa played tennis in college on a scholarship, and she still competes in the United States Tennis Association. When she plays with her husband, sometimes she's nice and lets him win. I'd like to introduce Miss Lisa Hoopman.
Good evening. It's nice to be here tonight. As a microbiology teacher, my body felt it was necessary to come with the virus. So I know it's the season of giving, but I will try to keep it to myself. Is there a way that we could get the computer set up?
Yeah. Can we get there?
Okay. I wanted to share with you the project that I've been working on with my microbiology students, and I'll let you know a little bit about how it started and where I hopefully am headed. So I'm trying to promote stewardship, and we're working on a restoration project out by the pond at the high school. Just to give you a little background, I was into gardening from the time I was little. My parents were very focused on having a vegetable garden. My father, we lived in Wisconsin for a time, and so I lived on a farm, and he had a campground, so we were always outside in the woods or, on the farm. So I really have just always had a connection with the earth. And I went first into English, and then I also had a minor in biology. And then as I went through my college experience, I really realized that biological science was where I wanted to be. So I went back and got my master's degree. And after I finished college, I worked for a short time for a year at a nursery, and I got some practical experience just working with plants, and was very fortunate then to get a research position at the Morton Arboretum. And that really, I think, was what helped me to get that, I think, that research component where I worked with a plant pathologist,
and we work with woody plant diseases, so I got a sense of, plant names and specific species that grow well in our area. And then I had a half-time position with 2 people. So I also worked with the woody plant breeder. And that was great experience too, because we did a lot of breeding experiments to try and find woody plants and shrubs that would grow in our area. And we looked at native species. And then I worked for 4 years as the youth education coordinator, and that helped me because I took tour groups of students out to the woodlands and the wetlands and the prairies and really taught them about the ecosystems. And then I was able to get the job here, lucky enough, and I just taught for a while, and then I was able to get into the environmental club. So I sponsor Web, and I did that starting in 2008. And we have been able to plant a lot of the bulbs on the grounds. At this point, I think we have about 800 bulbs, so we'll have a good spring show at the high school. And I wanted to kind of get the kids into working on a restoration project. I want to start small, because when you get sharp implements like saws and pruners in the hands of young kids, it scares me. And I was very focused on safety. And so I started with them. So we went out to the pond, and they started to take out buckthorn, which is an invasive species here, and we started to replace it with some of the native species. Well, they loved it. And I thought, okay, well, if they love this and I like this, maybe I could then incorporate this into my classes. And so what I did is I took a step in 2011, and I was teaching environmental science that semester, and I wrote a grant to Home Depot because I needed some tools and some safety equipment. And I received that grant, so I bought pruners and the saws and the safety glasses and the gloves and gave them a very big lecture about safety. And then we went out and we took out some of the buckthorn. Rhamnus cathartica is the genus and species name. So I taught them a little bit about why that plant, we should remove it, and why we should bring in some of the native species. And I also connected this to a wildlife project that we did, where I had them research a specific animal that they were interested in to make a connection to their habitat and how maybe the pond habitat could be restored in order to be a better habitat for that animal. And then I had them connect to Ty Warner, because in Ty Warner they've done a lot of nice restoration out there with the prairie planting. And they also have some decent wetland areas. I know a lot of them, they're all created, but they still have a decent amount of wildlife species that are out there. So they made that connection, went out, took a walk, took some pictures, and then connected it back to our pond. And they really had a good time. With all of this, we also then planted native species. And with that planting, I think I was trying to show them the stewardship where it's fun to destroy and take out. The kids love that part. But then to do the planting, I felt was important to give back to that environment. I took it a step further then. I didn't want to give it up. This year, I took my microbiology classes out there, and I connected it this time to fungal diseases, because in micro, we studied, excuse me, fungi, and then we also went into protists. So we studied some of the diseases on the campus, and the kids enjoyed that, but they said, Mrs. Hooman, all of our trees have all these diseases, it's terrible. But, they get a sense of why these new species, they can have some of these diseases but still survive. And then we researched buckthorn again, and then those students were able to take the buckthorn and remove it, and we put in a couple other trees that I had growing at my yard. We also did connect this to the wetland, and the kids then researched some of the protists that are in the wetland to look at the connection to algae, the trees that surround the pond, and so forth. I really try to teach about environmental issues because I feel, as humans, we've caused a lot of degradation over time, and if we could kind of instill into our students the idea of stewardship and working together and teamwork, I feel that that's very, very important, just to try and get that environmental balance back. My neighbors would say that maybe my husband and I have gone a little bit too far because our entire yard is like mulch and trees and plants, but it's beautiful in the spring and the fall and the summer. And we like it in the winter too. But I'm just trying to instill a little bit of that into my students. We definitely looked at common resource management and just the survival of natural ecosystems. This is where we planted our tree. It's just a little bald cypress that I had from the house. And, I realized that I would like to have some bigger trees. So what I'm trying to do is for next year, I did write a grant to Learner's Edge, and I received that grant for $500. So that's what I'd like to do next year, is to buy some larger trees that we can actually maybe touch and not be afraid that it's going to fall over. And they might be excited about that too. The kids did have fun. They definitely enjoyed the project. What really helped is it was absolutely beautiful when we were out there. I know climate change isn't the best thing, but it's nice when you need to be outside. And so they had a good time and they learned a lot, and I think that they enjoyed the teamwork. And just being able to get out, a lot of the kids wrote some letters, and I'll share one with you in a little bit about why the project was important to them. And they like being able to have the outside component and not to always have to be reading out of a textbook. They did enjoy that. And the grant that I applied for from Learner's Edge, I had the kids write a thank you letter because there needed to be verification of where the funds were going. So I sent some of the pictures that you see here. And then I also asked some of the kids to write some letters. So they did that for me, and I thought that was a good experience to just to be able to write a professional letter to someone real that actually is helping them with their education. And I do want to share with you I also try to communicate with students and parents, and I wanted to share the blog that I have created. I have a blog for each one of my classes, and so the students, parents, they can go to the blog to find out on a daily basis what we're doing if they happen to be absent, or what the projects are. And so they can print out our weekly schedule. I always have that up each week, and it's projected 2 weeks out. We worked on a bacteria project just recently with this last unit. And what was nice with this project is the students, I asked them, okay, technology is great when it works, but maybe not today. Well, what I did is I asked them to research any biology topic that they wanted to. And with that biology topic, I asked them to find someone they could connect to, a professional. And so some people got into bacteria and food processing, so they contacted someone in the food industry. Other people were interested in bacteria and antibiotic resistance, so they contacted different scientists or doctors. And they created some fantastic letters. And I told them they have to be fantastic because you're mailing them. And they're like, what? And I said, yeah, you can't write this letter and then not, send it out into the community. And I made it part of their final, so it really, made an impression on them. So it was the written part of their final, and they really did write some great letters. They researched for about 4 days off of our databases and found some really, great research. And then they tailored a really nice letter. We sent them all out. So I have my fingers crossed that we'll get responses back. We put in return address envelopes, so hopefully, that will get some more feedback for the students. So that was one of our projects. And then the other way that I use this blog is I created some station activities because I want the kids to really use it. In college, they're going to have blogs that they go to. Their professors are going to have inboxes and outboxes for things that they have to turn in. And so I made a couple of stations activities for the bacteria unit. And there were 3 places that the kids had to go. And so they would grab the laptops, they'd go to the blog. And at this first station, they would look at soil modifying bacteria. There was a short video and then an article they had to read. And then I looked at biofilms in Yellowstone, so they got a sense of what some of the archaea, these extreme bacteria, where they live. If you've ever been to Yellowstone, it's just a fantastic place to visit. And so then the last station that we looked at was nitrogen fixation in bacteria. And we did this, and I think it's nice because then the kids get to move, they get to use the technology, and it just, incorporates the science piece and the technology piece together. So those are just a couple things that I wanted to show you, and I'll just read the letter that one of my students wrote. I had asked them after we received the grant if they could write a letter to Mr. Cotter. He's the president of the Learner's Eng Fund. And the reason that I wrote this grant is because I took a lot of courses through Learner's Edge. It just helped me, to, I guess, be a better teacher, and then also, gain some new knowledge when it comes to teaching practices. And I took one course called The Sky's the Limit, and this is what really kind of got me to be comfortable with getting the kids out in the field. And so they wrote this letter. Rachel Weber put this together. Dear Mr. Cotter, while studying fungi in our advanced biology class at Westmont High School, furthered our study of plant diseases by completing a restoration project on our campus. In the project, we removed the invasive species Rhamnus cathartica, spelled correctly and italicized, more commonly known as buckthorn, and replaced it with native species. Because they outcompete native species for nutrients, it's important to remove buckthorn from the grounds in order to prevent any fungal diseases to these native plants. The species we planted during our project will grow well in the area, provide shelter and food for animals, and will not have a devastating impact on the other native plants as buckthorn would. I enjoyed the restoration project because it was a fun way to apply what we have been learning in class. At the same time, the project was helpful to the native species found on our campus and to the environment overall. It was interesting to see the impact that we can make by spending a few moments removing certain plants. I would strongly encourage the future advanced biology students to continue this project because it was helpful in understanding the impact of the species surrounding our school, and it was also fun. So Rachel Weber put that together, and we sent those letters to Mr. Cotter. Overall, it's a fun project. I love what I do. I love my students. I love being here at the high school. So I thank you for listening to me tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess I just have one. I think you talked about it a little bit, but when you do something like this and you go out and they can actually see and touch and feel, do you feel that when you come back into the classroom, they're much more engaged because then they see it instead of, and not that there's any problem with book learning, but?
I do. I really do. I think the more, even the lab component of science, it just, that engaging in any way, whether it be outside or just doing something, I think it really makes a difference. That's why I'm passionate about science, and anytime we can do stuff like that, I think it's more fun, and they're certainly more engaged.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed?
Hi, my name is Bob Reed. Been here before. The bus situation has straightened out that we've had the problems with in the past. I'm not here about that. What I'm here about, and I was here about before, is the one-way closing of Trowbridge for westbound. I only live a half a block, so I've been kind of watching in the driveway. In the morning, I get there, I start looking at it about 7:45 to see how many cars come there and drop their kids off. And the last weekend was 23 degrees. I figured a nice cold day would be probably the most that's coming, which were a total of like 28 cars. Today I did the same thing, and there was like 28, 29, so it's pretty regular in the morning. But they start coming in like 8 o'clock, and they're gone by 8:20. Total, nobody there. The street's closed from 7:30 until 9:30. 2 hours is a little bit too long, I believe, but if that, and 1 hour would be fine, 7:30 to 8:30 would be plenty. And then in the afternoon, when it comes out to the afternoon, the parents are mostly already there, and they're like, today, there maybe have been about 12 cars picking up their kids, because after it's warmer, they walk home or whatever. They're there at 2:46 as the bell rings. They're there, probably the cars are waiting at 2:45. 2:50, it's deserted. They're gone. There's nobody there. And again, that goes from 2:30 till 3:30 in the afternoon. And I know they were supposed to put a sign out. They put a sign out in the morning to block the street. There's never one there in the afternoon. The school buses, I think originally when they come up with this, which I could see at the time, used to come out of the parking lot and they'd come out on a trolley and turn to leave. Well, they no longer do that because the buses stop on Washington. They go straight, they leave the school, they go straight to Ogden Avenue. They don't even turn on trolley in the afternoon. The morning, one goes to Ogden and the other two go east. They do go there after they're unloaded to go to do their other routes. But I think it's just too long for that closure of the street, for the inconvenience of the people that live there. It is our only access to come from Cass Avenue to get home. Otherwise we got to go to Chicago Ave, Naperville Road, or back to Ogden. And if you're thinking about it, you don't. If you're thinking about the school being closed, you know it. But if you don't, you got to go around the blocks. I mean, I'm not saying that safety of the kids, I understand that, but there are no kids. There's nobody there. There's nothing there. If we could cut down the times a little bit on that closure to at least to an hour, because I've talked to this with Tom more than once, and even he's considering an hour. It should be plenty. There's no after-school activities at that school, and if they are, they're after 4 or 5 o'clock when they have things to do. But that's pretty much, just the closing of the street. I think it's too long. The 2 hours is too long. It's not necessary. I can see it at Manning School because they play at the playground across the tracks. Same with the church. They have that all closed off, but that's closed off for the whole day. This is hours. And I see cars coming down west on Trubby all the time. They ignore the sign. They go around it. We have that handicapped school bus that picks up that one kid across the street. I've seen cars go east on Trubby, go through the school parking lot, turn where they drop the students off, and continue east on property to bypass the school bus that stopped. So there's a lot going on here. But that's just all I wanted to say about it. I think it's just too long, 2 hours. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Okay, great. Okay, any comments? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendation. 2, approval of student tour. 3, review and award of furniture bid. 4, approval of donation. 5, renewal of SCIP insurance agreement. 6, approval of SCIP anti-pooling resolution. 7, resolution to abate working cash funds. 8, approval of December 2012 expenditure report. And 9, ratification of November 2012 regular payroll.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Just very briefly, one of the items in the consent agenda was a donation to the high school in the amount of $25,000 from Intel Micro Center. And That's due to Mr. Balderman and the work of the high school, applying for that and then receiving that donation. And those funds will be utilized for student incentives, professional development, classroom technology, as well as speakers for the high school. So it's a nice job on the part of the high school.
Yep.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. It seems like now we have a couple of donations, and some of them are hard-earned by working on grants and that. But thank you. As a board that's looking into our pockets, it's good to hear that there's teachers and administrators jumping in there. So thank you. Okay, the next item is the presentation of monthly financial statements.
Okay, you have the typical monthly items, the lunch report, and again, sales are slow again this year. Our expenditures continue to outpace our revenues in the lunch program. The student activity balances are presented, as well as the statement of position, the investments, and the fund balances. And then, again, we seem to be, there's not too much different this month than the past. The state still owes the district about $348,000 for fiscal year 13 categorical payments that have been vouchered but have not been released yet to the district. We did receive another installment of the 2011 tax levy in the amount of $426,000. So to date, we've collected $20,392,000 and for a 98% collection rate, and that's comparable to the last 2 years. Out of the money owed to the district, $243,000 is due to the education fund, and about $105,000 is due to the transportation fund. And expenditures in all funds are running as projected for the year. Does anybody have any questions?
Kim, have most of the tax appeals, because there was obviously a lot more activity on the tax appeal side, have most of those been settled at this point?
I haven't gotten a status on those in a while. I should be hearing soon. We are starting though to see assessment appeals come through again for the 2012 assessment year. Right now, there aren't as many coming through as there had been in the past.
I know we were worried about, negative impact to the district, and obviously it's a timing event, particularly for, at least for 1 year. So I'm just curious about whether or not there's a sort of a follow-up actual kind of story to those concerns.
I have not received anything, but I will be doing some checking with the county to see where those are at. And the one good thing though is that the assessors do really go to bat for the school districts to try and maintain the assessed value as well as they can, because they understand that impact.
Okay. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of the fiscal year 2012 audit, and we're going to have to hold off on that till later on in the meeting, till a representative from Miller Cooper can be here. So we will see where that is. We might do that after closed. Okay. Okay, so we'll hold off on that. And then action items. First one is a resolution to adopt the 2012 tax levy. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution setting the 2012 tax levy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Ms. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, the next item is in the approval of the Westmont High School course offerings. Mr. Balderman is here. Did you want to talk about that a little bit? I know we talked about it at our special board meeting, but if you had anything.
Thank you very much for being here. Sloan Jacobs and Lori Rasmus and Lisa Lucan. So one of our teacher, Michelle Therese, for the Change Makers, unfortunately her sister-in-law passed away, so she's at a wait. She would have been here also.
Sorry.
But I'm willing to still entertain any questions, or we just really are excited. We think the push on advanced placement will really strengthen our students' preparation for college and career readiness. And then we have some innovative courses, and we have some adjustments that are being made, and some strong additions from our science department. So we think it'll really strengthen our curriculum overall and give our kids even more opportunities to succeed.
After your presentation at our special meeting, I know a number of people said to me that they were very excited about these new course offerings. And I don't know about anyone else, but as long as our teachers have come, if you want to spend a minute telling us what your plans are, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's certainly up to you. It's up to you. I mean, I think I love all of the course offerings that you're presenting to us, so I'm fine either way.
Sue does a great job of leading our art department. She is our art department of the high school. She does a great job of collaborating with our middle school and elementary teachers. They're really using some of the time to connect. We put that, the AP Studio Art is something that we're still exploring, but we went on the book so we can possibly utilize it for certain students who are ready to do it, but we don't know that's going to go all out for next year.
Can you, as long as if you've been coerced into speaking, if you want to come on up to the...
It's the studio portfolio component of the, there's several different AP art selections, and it's the portfolio that's general, so it'll fit into the current studio structure that exists, where they can come into studio and take 3D, 2D, or computers. So if computers is their area, they can create a computer portfolio, or they can create a 2D portfolio or 3D portfolio, and it'll exist in the class that already exists now. It'll just be more formalized, and the curriculum will be the AP curriculum. So there's a few students that I'm losing a few students this year that it would have been perfect for, but there's a few students coming up that I think it would be good for, and it usually takes about 2 years to build that portfolio, because it's not a test, it's a portfolio review, so it has to be pretty comprehensive. So we'll see what kind of interest we have in the spring, and whether it'll go next year or the next. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to put you on the spot. I just thought as long as you
Trust me, you can't.
stand behind
with my 2-year-old.
stand behind the podium.
But several of the offerings come from these two fine teachers, so I'll let them speak briefly.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. I've proposed 2 of the changes to the curriculum offerings in the science department, adding the second semester of forensic science to make that a full year sequence course rather than the 1 semester elective. That proposal was really driven by student interest, and I know I talked to you earlier in the fall about that, but that really was entirely a student-driven request, so I am speaking on their behalf with that one. The second proposal that I've sent is the nutrition course, also to be offered through the science department. Craig Etheridge and I worked on that together, the proposal, and also have started talking preliminarily about some ideas and what we'd like to do with that course, because we both kind of had the idea at the same time. Craig Etheridge is also certified in science as well, so really freeing up the master schedule, we worked on it together thinking, either one of us is able and certified to teach that course, and however that fits time-wise in the master schedule and staffing-wise in the master schedule, we're both willing to work on the curriculum, and then, the bonus is who ends up getting to teach it. We've just, again, found that as lifestyles change and as, students are more tethered to their technology and less outside less and exercising less, and food is changing. The way we get our food, the way we make our food, the way our food is processed has changed a lot. And we've just found that the students' nutritional knowledge is a little bit lacking. And so we're hoping to attack that from a science perspective, first talking about scientifically what those nutrients are and why your body needs them, and then spending the last half of the semester talking about what your body does with those nutrients, and then some problems that can arise with too much or too few or the wrong kinds. That's what we're doing with nutrition. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
AP Environmental is one of the courses that we would like to try for next year, and That course, again, really would be a big focus on sustainability. I teach environmental science now just as a semester course, and so AP Environmental would replace that course. I'm excited about it because then it would be a whole year. And really to teach an AP class, environmental, you really need that whole year to do that, to work on your projects. One thing that I would like to do, that $500 grant will help with, trees, because I'd really like to pull the kids into, working more on the restoration project by the pond. But then Jack introduced me to Patricia Miller, who is a parent at the high school, and she helped me to write another grant. Granted, it's not big, but it's $1,000 that I hope we can maybe create a woody plant nursery. And I have some experience with that, and if we could grow the plants that then we could plant on our campus, and then in other areas in the district, I think that might be a nice connection for the kids too. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for that. The way that my classes work, the other course is called medical science, and Mr. Wolf helped me kind of pull together the other 3 courses, because when you pull out environmental, then I'm kind of left hanging with just a semester course that's open. And so he suggested, well, why don't you roll the other 3 together so that the students could still have a full year course. Then it's not broken up into the semesters, and they could take it every year. Right now I teach every other year the 2 advanced biology courses. So thank goodness for him. He helped me kind of problem solve and figure that out. And so I think the medical science will work out well because it'll incorporate the microbiology, the genetics, and then the anatomy. And the kids love those classes, and I really enjoy them too. So that way we can still have all of the advanced biology courses still offered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
I just had one question on the college readiness, and then I know we also have the other interventions section. And you had mentioned, when we talked about this before, about how you're going to review the effectiveness of those programs, and that you even had a control group that you were. So I just thought that was worth repeating again, because that was, I think, a real important piece in evaluating any new programs, especially ones that are meant to bring students more up to speed.
Yes. For college readiness, we'll have 6 different data points. Those are the practice ACTs and PSAEs that the students take throughout. Well, they've been taking them already, and then they'll take them throughout the second semester, and then we'll have the final data in July when we get the PSAE scores back. So we're monitoring that very closely, and we're following almost students from test to test to see what kind of impact's taking. But we won't know the full, effectiveness of the program until we get the final scores next summer. But we have, as I say, 6 data points along the way to find out about that. So that's the number 1 measurement for the college readiness. The ACT scores and the PSAE meets and exceeds rate. For the academic resource class, the academic support class, the number 1 SMART goal associated with that is the graduation rate, and we're aiming very high. And that's just one intervention, but we're tracking the students who are involved in that program and looking at their grades prior to them being involved and then after their involvement in the program. But the one major target that we're looking at is, what's our graduation rate going to be? And we're very intensely focused on bringing that to the highest level possible.
Jack, can you mention, because I think it's worth repeating, at the last meeting, you talked about the difference between test taking versus teaching the skills that, could you just touch on that again? Because I think
Sure.
it's important to hear it twice.
Sure. So for instance, a strategy for the ACT that students can, one strategy they can choose from would be to focus on 3 of the 4 reading sections and then do some kind of random guessing in the 4th. That's a strategy. The difference is that we give a practice ACT in math as an example, and then we work with a company called Radiant Learning, and then they'll break down specifically what skills the students have mastered and which ones they haven't. And then the person who teaches the course gets that feedback and then looks at the learning gaps and then targets the instruction to the specific learning gaps of the students. So that's looking more at the knowledge the students have, the content they know, and the skills they have, versus than just taking a strategy that some test companies would teach. Now, our students will also be exposed to test-taking strategies, but the college readiness is more focused on specific content knowledge, skills related to what the federal government and the state government have mandated that our students are exposed to. And of course, as we know, the ACT in many cases could, count up almost as much as 3.5 years of hard work that the students have done when it comes to admissions decisions and scholarship decisions. So our students are on the line for this, but it's not just test-taking strategy. It's really looking at what the students know and what they don't know based on the targets and standards set by the federal and state government, and then using formative assessment and then targeting the instruction to the specific student needs. It's not just typical test prep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like, just to follow on that, I like that philosophy of not just teaching to the test. So we are doing a number of things. We are working with a particular student who might have have the ability to lack in a certain area, and then find out where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and then target them. But it also sounds like, just from the presentations we are having, that we do have a lot of collaboration between our teachers in terms of like even putting these courses together.
Yes.
Like what the strengths of the different teachers to kind of put these courses together in addition to that. So that it's very nice to hear that we're not just teaching to the test.
No.
Understanding that test scores are important, but it's more, and it's also important to have that knowledge. So thank you for that.
Jack, I have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm putting you on the spot a little. I'm sorry I didn't ask this before, but we talked a little bit off and on about dual credit courses versus AP courses. And, I'm curious because I don't know really what the difference is as far as the do you teach something differently? Is it a different set of requirements? You and I have talked a little bit about those things. Could you just give us 30 seconds on AP classes versus dual credit? Because I know COD offers potentially opportunity to do dual credit, but we maybe are choosing to go one way versus another. And
I think we can explore both. We're not locked out of the COD dual credit option. The thing that's very appealing to me about the advanced placement program is that it's a national test. It's recognized by the top universities and colleges throughout the nation. And while all of them will not give credit for a score of 3 or above, they do recognize the quality of the program. So we're not locked out of doing dual enrollment with COD, but the power of AP, I think, in part is a national curriculum, a quality assessment, if you will, and a curriculum that's been endorsed, as I say, not only by the College Board, but by every major university in America.
do we know if any of our AP classes would meet the requirements for dual credit? I mean, the AP, as you've already indicated, the AP curriculum is fairly robust and nationally recognized. Would our kids be able to get, college credit for success in an AP course? Not through the AP exam, but actually through a relationship like with the community college?
Well, so of course, if they score a 3 or above, they are potentially going to get credit for AP classes. But they're a little bit different standards. The College Board requires an audit of every course that you call AP. That's the way that they hold us accountable for certain standards. Whereas a College of DuPage or a dual enrollment program, we'd have to have articulation agreements where they signed off on our teachers and signed off on the curriculum, and there would be that kind of accountability standard there. So generally speaking, you couldn't take an AP course. You could take an AP course and get credit possibly at College of DuPage, but it'd be different than a COD dual enrollment class.
Okay. Thank you.
I do want to mention again, because I think it's really will be something unique to Westmont, the Changemakers course. Last Friday, we had a video from 60 Minutes. The students were encouraged to be leaders and dreamers and think big and play to their passions. And I think that's something that's fairly unique to Westmont, and we're really excited about that. And we have somebody who I think is going to be facilitating that program that really has the vision of the small giant vision in mind, and it'll give kids some great opportunities to follow their passions. And still, if they choose not to, they could have a traditional type of learning experience, but it really is very innovative there. And the AP push, we're also writing a grant for that. I'm optimistic that we'll get the funding for it through the Illinois State Board of Education. It was just due this past week, and Kevin signed off on it. And it'll target all of our students, but especially our low income, our Latino, and our African American students. But it'll benefit all of our students with training for teachers. We want to do a summer school program to get kids ready, and we want to cast the net very wide and get as many students as possible. Our real goal is to build a strong and advanced placement program as exists in Illinois high school, to give our kids every opportunity to succeed.
Could I ask one more question? Following up on something that Joel was talking about, this other course called academic support.
Yes.
Could you talk about that a little bit? Because we are obviously looking to increase our AP scores, our AP with our rigor in our high school. But this class also seemed to be very important for students who might be struggling.
There are students in every high school in America just about who take the full complement of classes, 6 or 7 classes, and then they end up getting, looking at failure in half the classes. So the idea behind this is instead of taking 7 classes and passing 4, why not take 6 and try to pass 5 or 6? So during this time, they don't receive a credit for that class, but the person is, as I like to describe it, the big brother, the big sister, the mentor, the butt kicker, the liaison between the teacher and the student, the liaison between the school and the home, advocate for the student, supporting the student, being someone who they see on a daily basis who can really keep them on track so they can pass their courses. I say to the teachers or students, or when I get a chance to present, I would like an academic support class in my own day where somebody who cared about me, checked up, pushed me on the things that I wasn't completing, got me to have success in all the projects that I had to do. So the idea is then, and we'll track this, of course, seeing students who are passing 3, maybe 4 classes, pass 5 or 6, they stay on track for graduation, they don't have to repeat classes, and so then the payoff is they're more successful and we graduate more of our students. So it's really targeted at our students who are most in need.
So you have a beta program already on that, and
Yes.
at the last meeting, you talked about that you have about 85 students in that. Is something like that, or that's what you're looking to have, or?
Well, I think right now in the first year, ultimately, I think we'd like to have 50 students in that program.
Okay.
Right now, we have slightly less than that, maybe a little bit more than half of that number, because we want to implement it with success. But we're seeing a reduction in the number of failures for those students. For some of them, it's just one level of intervention. And then, ultimately what we'd like to see happen is to do an intelligent kind of summer school. If those students are still failing, that we target what specifically they didn't master during the school year, and then they make up that work during the summer school, and they start in the fall on target again, instead of being behind.
I would love to hear how that goes, because that sounds like I wish those classes were around, before. But this looks like a fantastic course for our students, so.
Thank you.
Any other
Butt
questions?
kicker, that's a technical term?
Where do we sign up for that?
Remember, I'm from the south side, so.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the teachers for coming in. Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the Westmont High School course offerings for the 2013-2014 school year as presented.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Absolutely.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report?
Included in my report, the joint committee, we met on December 15th, and the various groups, the strategic planning group, again, they're in the process of developing SMART goals. One of the conclusions that they reached is that the finance committee and the facility committee really should share that responsibility and develop SMART goals for the strategic plan within their subcommittees. And again, this is a way for us to to make sure that our strategic plan is measurable, that there are concrete goals, and so that group is involved in that process. The Climate Committee, so much of the beginning of this year was focused on the bullying awareness and making sure that happened. And so now they're starting to broaden their work, and they work collaboratively to develop a mission statement and norms, which there's a copy that's included in the update. And so they're going to continue to focus on their work, and I think in light of recent events, I think all of us can echo the importance of a healthy climate within our schools, and the importance of those positive student-to-student relationships, student-to-teacher, teacher-to-teacher, and teacher-to-student. So that's one of the reasons why we want to focus on that school climate. The Facilities and Finance Committee, again, we're taking a look at those mid-range, long-range plans. And what I shared with the committee is the fact that the what we want to do and the how, those are typically the easy answers, but what really the community needs and our parents need is the why. And so why are we looking at these projects? Why do we think that these projects are needed? And so that's one of the discussions we're having, and we're going to continue that discussion at our next meeting. And again, with recent events, one of the elements for all of our buildings that is on the forefront is security and building security and looking at that. And so I think definitely there's a strong why that we have, unfortunately, in our world today when we continue those conversations. And our next meeting is January 15th. Right now, I know on the district calendar, it looks like there's a fine arts district, but that is being moved to later in the spring, in part because we did bring on so many new staff members in our fine arts department. So, but January 15th at 6:30 p.m. and that will take place. Again, we always start in the commons of our high school, and then we'll separate from there. The other thing that's not included in the report that I'll share, January 3rd, I guess one of the nice things about the winter break that we have ahead of us, it does allow the administrative team to spend some real quality time together over that break. And so January 3rd, we carved out that day. Everybody made the commitment to be in district on that day. And a couple of things that we're going to be doing with that time. One is Detective Weibler is going to join us, again, to just, for us as an administrative team, review our protocols, our training, what are things that we could do better, what are things, part of the feedback, Linda Clawwitter and our pupil services team has been very instrumental this week in making sure that the needs of our students and our staff are being met during this difficult time. And part of the feedback, our teachers, they want to make sure that faced with a situation that they will respond accordingly, and that there isn't that momentary, okay, what do we need to do, but everybody understands. And so we're going to be working with Detective Weibler on our processes, and then also looking at our training and determining what we need to do better and to address those needs. The other thing, part of what Mr. Baldwin was sharing in terms of some of the things that we envision differently for our high school, there also have been conversations of things that we envision differently at the elementary level and at the junior high level. And I know we've had some of those cursory conversations, but we really want to use that time as an administrative team to target what we are looking to do for next year and what we'd like to bring forward to the board for their consideration. And that's in terms of the dual language conversation, looking at early childhood and kindergarten programming, looking at our language program, which is kind of interesting. At the high school level, the teachers are having conversations about how it would benefit them if students were able to be exposed to language at the junior high. The junior high is having those conversations, our community, the board, and so I think everybody is sharing those conversations. And then the other piece as well, as we've adopted professional learning communities and this idea of whatever it takes, that time for working with students who are struggling learners, we've got to look at all of our schedules within our school day and incorporate that time. And it's not that we don't make that effort, but now It really takes a lot of hard work on the part of our teachers to find that time to provide interventions for our students. And so as we are approaching that, looking at a different schedule possibly for our junior high, and then as we're looking at our elementary schedule as well, that's the other thing that we want to take a look at, how we can incorporate within the context of our day, how can we incorporate more time to provide additional, not only opportunities to provide interventions for our students, but also enrichment for our students as well, so that we're meeting the needs of all of our students, regardless of their place on the continuum of learning. And so all those things, we're going to be having those conversations and taking a look at how we can do this. And again, understanding that we have limited resources, not only in terms of staffing, but also financially. But so shortly then, after the first of the year, we'll be starting to have those conversations at the board table as well.
I, for one, am looking very much forward to talking about adding to our rigor at the high school and at all of our schools too. I know it is sadly falls to us to talk about budget cuts at times, but it's really wonderful to hear our teachers working together collaboratively, getting grants and finding money so that we don't have to always be cutting things, and that we can look at our schedule and find the time to make these things work. So again, looking forward to that. And I'm sorry you have to be here on January 3rd.
Looking forward to it.
Great.
All the conversations.
Great, thank you.
I know there are a couple of new groups this year, like CAC, and they're all alphabet groups. At some point, it might be good for us to get some information. I know the blogs come out with sometimes very interesting stories or information about different activities that those groups have undertaken. There's always PLC updates, there's always CAC updates, and I'm not even going to try the other alphabets. But I think in addition to those blog items that are posted, it would be good. I know that during the last joint committee meeting, the group that I was in was introduced a little bit to some of the things that curriculum advisory group has been working on. And it was interesting to hear the process they've been going through and some of the decisions that they're trying to make. And that would probably be something valuable. I mean, when they're ready. I know they're still sort of forming and trying to figure it out, but I think since that is part of our strategic plan, and we have committed to try and get some updates on some of those items, that would be good when they're ready, sooner rather than later.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then the next item is board reports. I was going to mention the vigil of the other night, or if someone else wanted to talk about. I'd like to thank very much the members of the communities, particularly Jim Schlicker and his wife Michelle Schlicker for organizing the vigil that was held on Sunday night at Ty Warner Park. It was a wonderful event and something that they pulled together very quickly, basically through social media. So it was nice to see social media being used in a good way. There were, I don't know, a couple hundred people there. There was wonderful presentations. I'd like to thank Dana Baticola for speaking, and Amy Quattrone, who spoke very eloquently on behalf of our school district. Dean Romano spoke on behalf of District 60, on behalf of Superintendent Burning. We had Colleen and a couple of young ladies singing, Colleen Alexander, and it was the police department was there, Sue Seneca. It was a great opportunity for a village. I don't know of any villages in our area that have, I haven't heard of anything like that happening in any other villages in our area. So I think I am proud to be part of Westmont and was proud to be there the other night. So thank you to everyone involved in that. Appreciate it very much. The fire department was there, the police department, many of our students. So thank you. Any other board reports?
I have just a quick update. Diane and I had an opportunity to attend the College of DuPage Community Night. And that was on a night when the district was very busy. So there was, administration was wrapped up in a meeting, Manning was having its music night, there was a lot of things going on. So Diane and I were able to sneak away and participate in this event. And the College of DuPage invited the community leadership from Downers Grove and Westmont. So, village trustees, police and fire, some business leaders. We also met representatives from the Hinsdale High School District, as well as both Downers Grove High School and Elementary Districts. So some additional school folks, someone from Elmhurst too, I think. So a couple of additional school people in addition to community leaders. And it was a wonderful opportunity for COD to sort of show off what they're doing there. If anybody's not familiar with College of DuPage, you should get familiar with it. It's an amazing campus. It's the largest continuous community college campus outside of California in the United States. The programs they offer are virtually second to none at a community college level. But they had us there really as part of their strategic planning process. So they brought in community leaders from all, and they do this with communities throughout their district, but they do it in small pieces, obviously, because it's a lot of communities. And they really solicited from us ways that the community college can support not just schools, but the entire community more effectively. And of course, in Westmont, we do have a branch of the community college, the Westmont Center in Pasquinelli. And so certainly one of the items that we were talking about is how to better utilize that campus and how to make that a more robust campus for folks that live in our area to be able to take advantage, whether it's adult continuing education, whether it's high school students being able to go and participate in activities. And just generally, it was a very, very informative, very productive opportunity to, try and advocate on behalf of our community anything that we could possibly think of during the conversation to tell COD we want. We want for our students, we want for our community, we want for adults in our community. English as a second language programs, trades programs, just a wide variety of things. And they were incredibly enthusiastic and open to all of the feedback that came from all of the constituent groups that were there. It was really a surprisingly productive and successful, look into the world of COD and how they operate and what they hope to accomplish. And it was just a really good opportunity.
I would agree. It was nice, the item with their referendum that they passed too. What was it, 158 million?
Yeah. They've spent, I think, $165 million on facilities in the last several years. And I mean, it shows. It really shows. Like I said, if you're not familiar with COD, take the time because it is well worth every minute you'll spend looking at what they actually have to offer. It feels so much like a university campus when you're there. It's not like the community colleges we grew up with. It's a brave new world. Isn't there a book, Brave New World? Okay, this community college is a brave new world. I mean, they are doing a full university experience at the price of a local community college. It is remarkable.
Okay, any other? Right, then are there any public comments? Okay, we are going to go into closed session, but when we come out, there will be a vote. But we will also be having our discussion when we'll have the presentation of the fiscal year 2012 audit. So with that being said, the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining and personnel issues.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Price? Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
We will now resume our regularly scheduled board meeting. So we have now come out of closed session, and there's two things that we are going to postpone the discussion at this point of our, where is it?
Audit result.
Audit.
The presentation of the fiscal year 2012 audit until either the next or to one of the meetings in January. And then the second thing is we have an action item on approval of the administrative salaries. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the administrative salaries for the 2012-2013 school year as amended.
So moved.
Second?
And roll call, please.
Oh, sorry.
Or you can
It's not my normal thing. Okay, Mr. Armstrong,
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli,
Yes?
Mr. Charleston,
Yes.
Ms. Charleston,
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The next meeting of the Board of Education will be January 8th, 2013 at 6:30 PM, right here in Westmont Village Hall. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aye. Now, what did you write? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.